Welcome to our Changemakers podcast. My name is Thea, and I'm very happy to welcome someone who truly does things differently in the energy world. Hi, Christoph. Glad you could join us for our 11th episode of our homemade podcast.
Hi, Thea. Thank you very much for having me.
Christoph, you're an energy entrepreneur par excellence. Could you please tell us more? Since when have you been active in the energy sector?
Actually, I started my entrepreneurship quite early. I founded my first company in 1989 when I was 18 in Paris, and I changed in the renewable energy space already in 2002. So obviously, I'm one of the veterans in this space, and this was at a time when renewable energies, and one might forget this easily in today's time. Renewable energies at this time was a niche. Everybody was laughing about it. But this has changed meanwhile.
With your diverse know-how and as a serial founder, why did you found then sonnen at that time? Was it difficult, or what you just said it was a something new? And what about renewables in 2010?
Well, 2010 was probably not the perfect timing, simply because, first of all, the PV industry in Germany just collapsed, and the first German PV module manufacturers went bust. And more than that, at this time, self-consumption was not a known concept. The whole renewable energy industry turned around literally the EEG law, and solar PV was only driven by feed-in tariffs. And so it was a quite innovative thought to think about self-consumption based on battery storage systems. And the reason why we were fascinated about this idea as well is also that it was already clear at this time that the subsidy scheme cannot last forever, fortunately. And the regulators already started to reduce the feed-in tariff step by step. And at the same time, the retail power prices went up slowly but steadily. And in 2010, if I remember right, the feed-in tariff was roughly about 40 cents per kilowatt hour, while the retail power prices were at about 25 euro cents. And this means at the end of the day that self-consumption was not a profitable case at this time, simply because it does not make a lot of sense to self-consume your self-generated solar energy in order to save 25 cents, while you could get 40 cents at the market. So you made a loss actually of 15 cents with every kilowatt hour you decided to self-consume. But it was clear for us, Thorsten Stiefenhofer and myself, when we founded sonnen, that the two lines will cross one day. And of course, we hope that this goes a bit faster. But in the beginning, it was a bit tough, simply because there was no market. Good news, no competition. Bad news, no customers either. And the whole case didn't make a ton of economic sense. So we were a bit ahead of the curve at this time.
Quite crazy to found a startup with such framework conditions, and especially founding, then a solar storage system company. When you would compare those conditions from 2010 to today, or how about today, what would have been different if you founded sonnen today, 2023? As you said, investments were quite difficult. Would have been something different in starting a startup today?
Yeah, I think times are totally different in many, many respects today, which is good. The preconditions and the framework has improved a lot for entrepreneurs in the climate tech space. First of all, there is a viable business case. The fact is simply that renewable energies are price competitive today if you compare it with fossil fuels, for example. And today it is possible for everyone to generate power at the costs that 1 or 2 decades ago were only reserved to scaled up centralized power stations. It has become so cheap today that the economics are not a question anymore. That's simply great. And this is the most important precondition from my point of view for renewable energies to strive. And this is also why this is not stoppable anymore. It is price competitive. That's great. Secondly, the technologies around have become more and more mature. Solar PV, wind, batteries and storage systems, and you might continue the list even. And at the time when we founded Sonnen, this was not clear because there was kind of hesitation from the marketplace regarding batteries. Batteries were kind of new, and everybody who had experience with batteries referred to his mobile phone or his laptop, and the idea that a battery can last for 10 years or even longer, 15, 20 years, was so new and so revolutionary that the end customers couldn't believe it and didn't trust the offering. Yeah? So the market was premature, and the first challenge was to gain trust from the consumer side. The third difference, though, is also that renewable energies left this little niche, went over time into the mainstream. And today I would even state that renewable energies left mainstream towards a real must. So it is very clear, and there is consensus from the side of policy, from the side of consumers, that this is the right way to go. And this helps, of course, as well. And the last and fourth point is also that the capital markets adapted on that. And I remember when we founded Sonnen, it was impossible to get funding from investors because everybody said, okay, guys, first of all, your business case is not economic. Secondly, you are kind of attached to the solar industry and it just collapsed and a lot of people lost a lot of money. Sorry, but we cannot give you anything. Today, this has changed. There is literally a tsunami of capital that is entering the marketplace from all over the world, and everybody wants to invest in the space. First of all, because it's continuously a growing market, and secondly, because it's ESG. It's all about sustainability today, and investors got the message meanwhile, and this is why it has totally changed. And the preconditions for founding a company in the space are more favorable than ever before. And this is exactly the market environment that we were hoping for, and that we have also foreseen, kind of, and we believe that it will start tomorrow, but it did not. But today it is here, and so for entrepreneurs, the preconditions could not be much better from my point of view.
Thus, timing is key in that case. How about also the place where to found a company? As everybody's talking about Berlin as the startup hub with all the network events and so on. However, you founded your company in Wilpolsried in the lovely Allgäu. Would you reckon there's a different if you found your company somewhere else?
Well, I think this is indeed a very exotic idea to found a company in the middle of nowhere. The reason for that was simply that we've been there and we did not think about it too much, and we did not expect, even in our wildest dreams, that the company will get so big so fast. But at the end of the day, of course, you're totally right. It is about the ecosystem, and Berlin is a great place. Munich is a great place. It is about the access to employment markets. You need, of course, highly motivated, talented staff to help you build a great company. And this is not so much given in the Allgäu. It is also a question of infrastructure. If you want to travel and if you want to build an international growing business, this is not unimportant either. However, on the other side, I must say the world has changed also in another respect. And this is that remote work and doing a lot of things online, not to travel all the time to a place, that you can have guys working for you spread nationwide, and you simply cooperate on an online basis. This has been facilitated very, very much, and I think this is also an excellent news. So striving with a headquarter based in the middle of nowhere has become a bit easier, I would guess, but still this is not the optimum for the reasons mentioned before. This is how I view it today.
Let's talk a little further about sonnen, then we switch to other topics. As I'm very interested into the sonnen community. In 2015, you established the so-called sonnen community for the virtual exchange of energy, so to speak. Their customers can give their surplus electricity to other sonnen members and sell it at the level of the feed-in tariff with a bonus. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That was quite revolutionary, I think, as it was, to my knowledge, the first VPP that connected small assets. How did you come up with this specific idea of a community of private households, or how did you identify the need for a virtual power plant at that time?
Well, Sonnen actually started building hardware as a system integrator, if you would like to say so. And after a while, it got clear that hardware alone does not lead to anywhere, and that there is some intelligence, smart logics needed in order to use the full potential of a storage system, in order to optimize self-consumption, in order to become grid friendly and support the grids, and all this kind of stuff. So we decided already quite early to move towards a software company. And you might say this was kind of a pivot, transitioning from a hardware company to a software company. And it was for sure. And suddenly we had an installed fleet of hundreds and even thousands of battery systems installed somewhere in Germany. And as these systems were all online, we could monitor the systems and learn that basically the systems aggregated as a sum, as a whole, had almost at all times sufficient energy to supply all of the customers. Unfortunately, this was not true on the individual basis. So one customer had excess solar power, which he fed into the grid. Another one, at this exact point in time, needed power. And so we thought about, why not to virtually connect all of these customers and let them literally share the excess solar power among each other in order to self-sustain and to get even more independent from traditional and fossil power generation, and to get independent from the big utilities as well, which our customers wanted at this time very much. So we invented the sonnen community, and indeed it was the first virtual power plant based on distributed small devices in the residential space. And it was Sonnen's ambition, of course, to be and to stay the most innovative company in this space. And I believe, also looking back, that the Sonnen community was really, really one of these innovations, which were kind of copied, or at least the Sonnen community inspired one or another competitor, one or another also large utility. And I think we can be proud that we helped to shape the whole market also by the Sonnen community at this time.
Have to agree. I think, it mirrors the needs of our energy system today. That we change from a demand to a more supply-sided energy system. You left the company Sonnen then in early 2021. What did you do afterwards?
Yeah, I left Sonnen indeed after being the CEO for 11 years in the beginning of 2021. And as mentioned earlier, I entered the renewable energy space at a time when you really needed a lot of conviction and where you really needed to believe in this kind of industry and also the technologies around. And still, I do so. So I stayed in the space. I started to help promising startup companies that were exactly on the right spot of the energy transition as an investor, but not only as an investor, because I believe money is a commodity. You can get money from everybody. If you have a good idea, you will get funding, no doubt about that. So I don't believe that I can help by an investment here and there. I rather think that being in the space for more than 20 years and having been involved in several startup companies, Sonnen was number 6 for me, actually. I already made a lot of mistakes that young entrepreneurs might make. And so I try to support also the development of my portfolio companies, if you would like to say so, and to be either in a board role or not, kind of an advisor, a coach, a mentor for the founders, and help a little bit avoid the most stupid mistakes that I made them all, I can tell you. I've I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I simply try to contribute here and to make a change and to impact also a little bit the startup companies.
Great. As a serial entrepreneur, but also as a startup investor right now, how would you sum up the developments you see in the startup scene in Europe regarding green techs? As what startups did emerge on the market since when? As obviously you just told us, it was hard to found Sonnen in 2010 because renewables, or especially the solar industry, was not so much in demand for investors.
I think it is very nice to see that more and more entrepreneurs dare the step to found their company in the space. There are a lot of great business models and ideas and technologies around that also work on the hotspots of the energy transition. And I think that at the end of the day, it is not only about inventing technology, it is also about to use existing technology to make a change and to put simply individual pieces of the puzzle together and simply do things by implementing already existing technology and moving by this the energy transition forward. I think this is a very important aspect, that it's not always about technological innovation, it is also about simply using the technology and doing it.
Regarding just doing it, if you look at the energy industry, what can these younger or even mature startups do better than the big energy companies or in energy intensive companies industry? Why is that such like big companies cannot or don't want to set up in their own departments? Why do they buy then startups or invest into startups? Don't they have also smart people in their companies?
This is a great question. And I think there are a couple of very clear and simple reasons for startups being the source of innovation. The first reason, from my point of view, is innovation is always related to risk, because you are doing things nobody else did before you. And it's always a risk that you have to take, and you have to feel comfortable with this risk. And I think the affinity to taking these risks is there in a startup company, because they can not lose much but win everything. And this is totally different than large corporations. They have, in often cases, a risk-based management approach. They try to do nothing wrong, but somebody who is only focusing on not doing mistakes is not doing anything right either. This is not the climate you need for innovation. The second reason is that I think in a startup you have incentive schemes in place that everybody perceives himself being part of a mission, of changing the world, of making the world a better place. And there is a diverse range of incentives attached to that. May it be the incentive of being one of these world changers, making the world a better place, simply being purpose driven, which is, from my point of view, a very powerful thing, and very motivating as well to work in such an environment, be it a financial incentive or whatsoever. And this kind of incentive set is often not there in a large corporate where you have your package with maybe a relatively small part of a variable salary component or whatsoever, but the dedication to a mission and the existence of an incentive scheme is changing a lot from my point of view, and this is a very, very important thing. And the two already mentioned facts lead into a third reason, and this is that this is changing the mentality in a way that people adapt to that, and people choose the place where they want to work according to what they want to achieve. And if and this is not judging at all, but if you like firm structures, if you like a firm incentive set, then you would probably rather go and take a job into a corporation, a large corporation. And if you like risk taking, a dynamic environment, innovation, and also this being mission driven, then you would probably rather go to a startup company. And this changes also the set of people working in a startup company and differentiates the set of people from a large corporation. But this does not mean that people working in a startup company are smarter than in a big corporation. I think this is nonsense. But these three reasons are, from my point of view, the main facts why innovation is mostly coming from the startup space and not from large corporations.
Mm-hmm. Quite frankly asked. So that is the reason big companies buy startups, to avoid risk and still get at the same time a new software or technology or service. Does it then work that startups keep on being innovative when they're, or for the big companies, when they were bought by them or when they invested into them?
I think it depends. And the main mistake a big corporation can make acquiring a startup company is to implement the same kind of culture of a corporate governance framework into a startup company, because this changes then again the risk taking. This changes again the incentive scheme and being mission driven, and this changes also the mentality of people. And then you might be surprised as a corporation that you said, why? I mean, this is such a dynamic, innovative company, and now that I bought it, the innovative power is gone. What went wrong here? But this is simply, if you change the environment into the environment of a corporation, then what is the essential of a startup company gets lost, and then you don't get what you wanted with your acquisition.
Big companies might invest into startups to enhance their business goals or even climate goals. But when do you, as an investor, invest into a startup? Because you said earlier on that you don't just invest, but rather want to work also together with the founders. So, what are the main characteristics you seek in a green startup, or even how do you find them? First of all, or do they find you?
Actually, it's both. Sometimes they find me, sometimes I find them. I think the most important thing is that they are really working on one of the hotspots of the energy transition. Because if you want to make a change and an impact, and this is what I want, it is important that they are really working on the most important topics of the time. And this is for sure one of the main criteria. The second one is the team. This is, I mean, everybody tells you that the team is so important in a startup, but it is, because at the end of the day, you start with nothing as a startup company, and all you have is a good team, or you don't. And it depends on the ambitions and the skills and all of that, if it becomes a success or not. And sometimes you even see business models where you think, this is not rocket science. This is not highly innovative, but some people do things better than others. And then, even though it is not highly innovative, it becomes a big success, while others are not successful doing the same thing. So I think this is important, and even more important for myself is to work in an inspiring team and to work with people that you really like. And this is why team is extremely important for me. And the third criteria for me is that I really believe that I can help. So I have to understand very well what the startup is doing. I think that my skill set needs to complement the founders team, and if I don't believe that I can contribute, I will not invest in the startup company, because I'm wasting my time and the time of others here. This is not what I want. But these are the three main criteria from my point of view.
And when you think of your portfolio of startups, but also of all the other green techs and clean techs in the market, do you see any missing company? As you earlier said, there are so many technology-driven startups that want to make a change, but that actually it's missing to really do something with it. Or rephrasing my question, since we are focusing on change making in this podcast, what would you, as an entrepreneur, start these days? What startup is missing in the ecosystem?
Well, I think that it cannot be the ambition for myself to have a complete portfolio, and that I can cover all the hotspots of the energy transition, simply because there are many, and secondly because the environment is changing all the time. So I think it is very nice to see that new spots are coming up all the time, and that also for young entrepreneurs, it's never too late to find a sweet spot where one could found a company really contributing to the energy transition. That is good. And I think that I have in my portfolio already a lot of the hot topics. I mean, as for obviously working on flexibility, which is the currency of renewable energy markets. It's all about flexibility to mitigate the disadvantages of renewables, being dependent on when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing. So flexibility is for sure one of the hotspots of today. I'm invested in a company called Numbat as well, and they are active in the space of EV fast charging, and they can offer infrastructure independent from the existing grid infrastructure. So you don't need high voltage grids or medium voltage grids. You can do this simply on the low voltage grids, simply because they offer fast charging based on the battery storage, which is awesome from my point of view. And being an EV driver by myself, this is exactly what is missing. Then I'm invested in 1,5 Grad, for example, and they really not only talk the talk, but are doing the walk and using technology that is already existing and bringing it home to the end customer, bridging the last mile to the customer and enabling thousands and many thousands of people to take the energy transition into their own hands. These are all, from my point of view, very important topics, and I could mention a few more, but I think that all these companies are very well positioned already today.
A fascinating portfolio. I can only agree. And that's a good keyword for our final question. Who's your favorite change maker? Who do you admire for his, her, or its groundbreaking spirit, innovations?
Look, I think there are many, and this is the good thing about the energy transition. It is, at the end of the day, all about decentralization, also digitization and decarbonization, but it's also democratizing the world of energy, because the good news here is that everybody can be a change maker, and you can decide at every minute of the day that you want to become a change maker by yourself, take the energy transition into your own hands and go solar or whatsoever, yeah, buy an electric vehicle. So I think today we live in a world really where the energy space is more and more decentralized. And this is also true for change makers. And this is a good news, because we don't have to wait for change makers in the space of politics, in the space of economy or whatsoever. Everybody can be one. And this is, from my point of view, one of the greatest achievements of the energy transition.
Thank you for these inspiring last words, but also for the insights you taught us about your work, your motivations, and also about the green tech world.
Thank you very much for having me again. It was a pleasure.
We very much hope that you also, dear listeners, enjoyed this episode. If so, you're welcome to subscribe to our podcast via the usual podcast channels, and we look forward to tuning in again.